Fifth English, The Girl Who Listened at Last. Once upon a time, there was a girl who did not like to listen. She would only like to talk and listen to her own voice. Whenever other people spoke to her, she would interrupt them and start talking herself. She never listened to anyone. That was why no one liked her very much. One Sunday morning, she woke up and looked in the mirror. "Ah!" she screamed. Her ears had disappeared. She was very frightened because she looked very strange. She could not hear anything. She could not hear the sound of her toothbrush as it brushed her teeth. She could not hear the birds chirping merrily in the trees. She could not hear the radio when she switched it on. She could not even phone her friends. She could only type and send text messages. But she did not want to do that. "How boring! I want to listen to my friends' voices," she thought. Feeling fed up, she went to the park for a walk and to think quietly for a while. She came upon a curious-looking old woman dressed in all the colors of the rainbow, talking to a group of children. They seemed fascinated by what she was telling them. For the first time in her life, the girl wished she could listen. She sat down on the grass next to the children. She began to hope and pray that she could listen to the wonderful stories the old woman seemed to be telling the children. Suddenly, a magical thing happened. The girl's ears gradually began to come back. She could hear again. She touched them and felt very relieved. The old woman's sweet voice began to fill her ears, and she was listening to beautiful stories about faraway lands, interesting people, talking animals, magical music, delightful devices, and exciting happenings. For the first time ever, she was very happy to listen to words spoken by someone else. The old woman noticed her and gave her a kind smile. She smiled back gratefully. When the old woman finished telling the stories for the day, the girl walked home joyfully. She began thinking of all the magical stories she had heard. She felt content and excited at the same time. With many wonderful ideas swirling in her mind, she decided to write a story of her own. Should I write about a princess who becomes a football champion in a faraway land? She thought. Or should I write about a kind farmer who grows magic plants? Or maybe I can write about a chef who has a magic oven that never stops baking yummy cakes. She was thrilled as she was bursting with so many ideas. Without wasting a minute, she found some paper and a pencil and started writing a story of her own. For the next whole hour, she was completely engrossed in putting her words and ideas on the paper. She pictured her story first and then wrote and wrote. She crossed out some sentences and added many others. The result was a brand new story created by her. She read it and felt really great. I cannot believe I have written this interesting story, she thought happily. Then suddenly she realized something. She thought, if I hadn't listened to the old woman's stories, I wouldn't have got inspired to write my own story. Thank goodness my ears came back. Now I understand how important it is to listen to other people. She decided that she would always listen to people around her. She would never interrupt them. Who knew they could have something amazing to say?